Hey everyone, this week we are going to be building Headspace, the app. This is a meditation and relaxation app. If it's free, if you haven't got it, please get it. And what I really want to break down today is how they've used space to create a sense of calm, and it's very easy to make an information-heavy app and for people to feel that the UI is cluttered, but they've done a very good job in this app using their muted color palette and their extra wide spacing, which we'll see when we get into it, to make a really flowy UI that just there's no reason there's a reason why it's the one of the best relaxation apps out there. All right, so let's get into this. This is as always, this is our screenshot that we've taken just from my phone. It is too large right now, so we're going to bring it down to the size of the iPhone, which is 414 px. Once the pixels are brought down, you'll see it's the exact same size as our artboard. So let's rip out the guts of it. We need the background, the text, and the secondary colors. So I'm noticing that the background here as I'm starting is completely white. So that should be okay. We'll leave that there. Then there's a few different background colors, but they've actually used a very consistent palette inside here. And you'll see that throughout when I make the rest of this palette, that I'm going to guess that a lot of the colors are very, very similar. And then, yeah, look, that's pretty much it. Text, we'll get that, and that will be, yeah, so this blue here looks very similar to this blue here, which is very similar to this background here. I would not be surprised if they are the exact same. Yeah, they're no doubt the exact same. So we'll grab this here as our text color. And then there's a light text, and this light text isn't exactly white. Now I know you're like, oh, Aaron, just use white, it's easier. These muted colors, they're subtle, the differences are subtle, but they come together. Very important color choices they've made, and they've done a really good job. So, and the secondary all are pop colors again, which as you can see, we're picking the same colors from everything. There's a yellow inside here. I'm noticing there's a light orange in the background here, which is slightly different to this one. I'll slot it underneath there. Yeah, that's, and then there's this green I've just spotted. We'll build these little elements inside here as well. So I wanted to show you guys something. When building iOS stuff, you can download the design system, the complete iOS design system from Apple's website. So if you go and visit developer.apple.com, I'll put this in the description, you can download the entire iOS sketch library, which is permanently linked to your sketch, or you can download the file itself. So I've added it to my library. So now when I go insert the symbols, all of the symbols are inside here. And I just want to grab this stuff at the top without having to rebuild it. So we are going to go, it's a status bar for an iPhone. It's an iPhone X. Is it status bar? It's a status bar. Or, sorry, it's a navigation bar. Where did I find this? Never mind. Here's one I prepared earlier. So what is it called? Bars status bar iPhone. There we go. So that was in bars, status bars, iPhone. I was in there. It was just this one here. I see. Okay, brilliant. So this is perfect. That can just sit up the top there for the time being. Let's actually start building the application itself. So the first thing we'll do is we'll make the background color, which is the secondary. It's blocked off the nav bar, so we'll drop that down, the status bar, sorry. This is all white down here, and then we'll get this black bar down the bottom to represent the bottom of our iPhone X. That looks like it's a little bit smaller. We'll center that. Now we have to grab this text. So I've had a look at this text and it cost £50 to buy, and we don't have that kind of money as designers. So I have substituted it with Brandon Grotesque, which is a great font. I am pretty sure I got this from Adobe, adobe.font.com. And if you have an Adobe font license, you should be able to download it too. So we'll pick the color as our cream color, which was super important. I reckon that's size, no, not 28. Let's go 22. And we'll go regular. So this is one of the things that I wanted to point out with their app. Most of the times you'll see in previous apps, there will be a 16 pix border or even 8 pix from the edge, right? That's so we can get a majority of the information in, and that will run pretty consistently throughout the app. But the more space we give to a design, the more peaceful it is, the easier it is to read, the less frustrated a user gets, and less of a cognitive overload they get from digesting the information. So you'll see that they've used a 32 pix grid outside the entire thing, and it's given the app room to breathe. It's given the information room to show, and they couldn't have done that without. They couldn't have achieved that effect without making the spacing much wider than a normal application. So I will space at 128 from the top, which is a multiple of 4. I make all my grids in 4, and I think it's a good rule of thumb to follow. And we'll move on to our next header. So we'll drop 16 down, half of 32, and we'll say it's basics 2. This looks like it's bold and a butt ton bigger. We'll go 48. So see how this text box is being a pain? We can change the alignment. Right now it's aligning to top. We align the vertical to middle. We'll be able to space it effectively and everything will show. So that's good. That's looking pretty good. And that's 32 from the edge too. And now we have the begin button. So you'll see another really friendly UI feature is, or a friendly style, I should say, is giving rounded edges to your corners. Let's just max this out. It should go to 100, but it can't go any more than 20. So that's equivalent of max. And, without the harsh edges, it gives it a real smooth, rounded flow. And, I don't have to harp on about this. You can see why they've done it. So type in begin. And we'll use the text font provided. So this looks like it's a little smaller, a lot smaller actually. We'll go probably a size 14. I'm going to leave it as that actually. And we'll go bold. And then you'll see that the spacing is I'm going to make the text alignment in the middle. Sorry. You'll see that the spacing is quite large. So we'll change the character spacing to 2. Should be enough. We'll get this in here. So now we've also got a play button as well. So that just seems like a triangle. Yep, it's just a triangle with rounded corners. It should be easy enough to replicate. So for that, we'll go insert star. We'll draw a star. And while that star is beautiful, it needs less points. So we'll go to 3 points. That makes yourself a triangle. There's a million different ways to make a triangle. That's how I do it. And we turn it on its side to make a play button. Drop the borders off, and pick that. Now you'll see that this is a bit sharp and probably a bit large as well, so I'll make this a bit smaller. We'll double click on it to show all the vector points. We'll select all these 3 points by holding down Shift as you click them. And we're going to change the radius just to 1. And you can see how this is still the beginning of the, that's still selected all. This is still the beginning of the point, but it's rounded off the edges. So we'll click on finish editing over here, over the right hand side, or we'll just click off it. That works as well. So now we have our begin button. This is a little bit harder to space. See how they made the box quite wide? We might have to manually space this. We'll just do 16 and 12. Great. So I'm just going to try some of these background elements that we've got here. This looks to be just a white with the 20% opacity, which just grabs the color behind it and just makes it slightly lighter. And then there's a bunch of dark elements inside there. So what we'll do is we'll make a background group and we'll grab all these shapes and we'll put it inside there. So we'll rename this as background F, background, and we'll draw some ovals. So this oval, hold down Command, you can rotate it, move. And so this was the color of that background. We need to actually change this one to the light of the secondary. This needs to be with the background and it also needs to be grouped. So I'm just going to select all the elements that I need and hold Command and press G and it will add to a group. And that is a background group. I'll just call it background again. So you'll notice now every time I click it, I'll click everything. And that's sometimes a pain in the butt. So what we'll do is we'll hold down Command and you can see that I can select individual elements inside. So we'll click on that, we hold down Alt and we drag to make a replication. Put it over here and we'll rotate it around. Make it a little bit smaller. It's really just a quick way to replicate the pattern that they've made. Make an oval of that shape. There's another oval down here. It sits behind the button, the element. These two ovals can come with me into the background, which automatically pushed everything behind. And then the one last thing is a triangle-like shape. So you'll see now that I've made a triangle in there and I've dragged it inside the background and it's still popping out the bottom. Now, it was fine for these shapes because it bled off the edge of the artboard, but this is actually bleeding further down into the rest of the application. So if we grab this, if we grab the background and we right click and turn it into mask, you'll see that it's disappeared. So I've still got the entire shape, I've still got the shape here, but you just see that it's masked off behind the rectangle. So there we go, we've got a top bit done, and now we'll move into the rest of the application. So I'll Alt drag this text down. We're 32 by 32 again. This color is has now changed. It still has a similar tracking. No, it might have a quite smaller. We'll go 16 and then we'll turn the character space to 2. And we'll give it the same spacing here, 32 by 32. Pop that in the middle. Right. Now you'll see that they have easy way to figure out how big this square is. Make it the whole size, make it the rough height, whole width, 414. And then we'll go take 32 for the left size and take 32 for the right hand padding. So we'll just go take 64 and we'll click on center. And now we know it's the exact space because they have to be 32 pixels left and right. And now this needs to, you see they've rounded the edges around here. Not to the same extent as this, but we will, I think that's 4. We'll go 4. Yeah, that looks about right. And we'll change the fill to, sorry, I'll use the background one, even though it's the same, just to prove a point. And we'll type in here the next step. So that is acceptance versus resistance. Now, I don't actually think that font works inside here anymore. It's quite sharp and widely spaced, so I'm actually going to change this to another font. Most applications will use a mixture of fonts, no more than 2, maybe a header and a body copy, or and very rarely will you get 3, and most of the time you can get away with 1. So we'll change this to Museo Sans Rounded, which is another amazing font on Adobe Fonts. We'll change it down to 700 as a size, 0 spacing, or no, it's got a bit. .5. I think that's quite nice. And now you'll see that because I've made the text box too small, it's cutting off the bottom of the P. That's now the minimum height that we can make this text box because of the descender from the P without cutting anything off. And then we should be able to type the next line, which is try it for free. Once again, please try this app. It's a great app. It helps in a pickle. So now making this play button to the side. It's quite a bit larger than that. So we'll go 40 by 40 pixels. Once again, they've made it super easy here because I'm just using the same stuff over and over again. Really going to speed up this tutorial, which is great. Oh, sorry, that's 16. I need it to be 32 pixels away. I don't actually think that's 32 pixels. This might have just gone. No, they've gone like a half inside here. We'll go 20. We'll go 20. It's still a multiple of 4. You know, you can't be the grid is important for creating main hierarchy, but don't be a slave to it. Especially when you're making a box like this, it's going to be used like a symbol. And sometimes the title is going to be multiple lines. Sometimes it's going to go even further. That's why people usually use a smaller scale grid, because there's more information to fit. So don't be a slave to it, but you know, still adhere to it wherever you can. So this will be this yellow that we've grabbed at the side. Now we've got a cool play button, reusing the same elements that we're using up here. Now we can make that background. We can do that. We've done it before. We'll do it again. For these big circles here, rather than making a big circle and a small circle, I'm just going to make one circle with a massive border. We're 30. No, it's not 30. 20 and 20. We'll click them inside here, and we will grab this. So now we have these 3 elements. They're going to be grouped, and they're going to be called training box, where the rectangle, which is the background in this case, is going to become a mask, which is going to drop these elements inside here. I'll select our colors. Now, I don't like keeping things as strokes, because as you see, as you grow it and you shrink it, it keeps the same size, the same width, which it should, but it means if I scale my design, I'm going to the thickness isn't going to stay the same. It's going to stay the same number, but it's not going to visually look the same. So what I'm going to do is I've selected both of these and I'm going to go convert to outlines, layer, convert to outlines. And now I've got two proper shapes. Now we'll continue to make the rest of our pattern inside here, which is another circle using this color in here, inside here. Oh, it's using the lighter color, the lighter shade. This looks like it's been made with just 3 circles. Similar to that, maybe with a bit more bubbliness. Like that, and then one more over here, which looks a little bit elongated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a big circle. I'm going to double click on it, and then just drag one of the vector points, maybe 2 of the vector points. And select our final color. There we go, we've got one of our boxes, and that's all perfectly encapsulated inside this training box as the background, and then these other elements are just sitting on top for now. So we can replicate this and go 32 pixels again, this header. Change this header to my courses. And these boxes follow a very similar style. We'll say they're 160. As long as they're 32 pixels away from the side with the exact same corner radius of 4. And that will be a smaller version of Basics 2 inside there. So I alt drag that down. I changed, oh, it's still called Basics 2. I changed the font to a 24. 24 works. Give it 48 by using a 16 there, or maybe another 20. Yep, 20, 48. Perfect. So I'm going to make my shapes inside here, and then I'm going to duplicate these shapes. Actually, I can make this rather than use 2. This is the lighter version, so this needs to be the lighter color, and then they've got to make 2 shapes inside it. So you can really start to see how they would build out their pattern library, and they would have a whole pattern of all these different shapes that they would just grab and, or maybe even automatically generate, depending on their tech stack and what they're using. And this will be called, we'll group these and we'll call this the courses box. Keep you down here. And we'll turn the rectangle into a mask. Just like that. So that is Basics 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that and give it now that's a shame. Huh. What's going on here? Oh, okay. Sketch was just freaking out. That's okay now. It made a much bigger box inside this, but now we're back to normal. So I just double clicked to change that. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, to be honest. Looks like they're using an 8-pix in between these two, and we'll make these 3 boxes there. Before we do that, we may as well just grab it with the text as well, so we don't have to duplicate the text positioning as well. I'm just holding Alt and dragging with this. Now you'll see oh, we have a new color on board here, guys. It is the light blue. Ooh. This is managing anxiety. Now you'll see that I've expanded it, but because I've middle set the alignment, that we can't get this consistent the line height. You see how with this, with basics, managing, and basics, everything's aligned to top. So if we're going to match the same, we're going to grab all three of these, we're going to align them to top. And then, yeah, there's still 48, which is fine. And that means now, if it has a longer title, managing anxiety and stress, that it'll always keep that consistent height. Change it back to managing anxiety. Now this line height looks a little bit too large, so I'm going to change the line height to, it looks like it's 34 at the moment. Just try this, 26 pixels. So it's 2 pixels higher than the actual space, than the actual font size, but it looks a lot nicer and it looks a little bit tighter and will allow more lines if they do have big titles. Great, so we've got a few more elements, so let's get on to it. The next seems like a an advertisement. So that looks like it's white and it's got these 2 spacer lines. So I'm going to grab this, going to press Control C, Control V, made a copy of this square. I've just made it a white square. And did I ever grab you? No, I didn't. So we have a new color to add to our background. Welcome to the crew. And we will bring what looks like this. Yeah, we'll go sleep by Headspace. Capital H, gotta respect the brand. And then they have a moon. So the moon is an easy shape to make. You grab one circle, you grab another circle. You can already see this moon shape that they have. Now, how big have they made this crevice? That might be a bit too fat. Go down to here. You select both of them and you click subtract. And now you have a crescent. Now you have a half moon. So we'll get rid of the border of that and we will, this is a new, probably somewhere in their palette, but I won't add this. I just made this a little bit smaller. Cool. Click by Headspace. Now we have an arrow over this way. Now there's a million different ways to get arrows. Arrows actually are quite a bit more deceptively harder to create than they look. You think it's just a few lines, but there's optical alignment, there's rounded edges, there's angles, there's a lot of ways to stuff up an arrow. So you can either do something like go to flat icon, and while you're there, you can search for an arrow kit. You grab an SVG. It's nice and simple to grab. Flat icon's having a bit of trouble. I'll show you my icon manager while we're at it then. So I have a feather kit, which is a free download. And this contains a bunch of different arrows at a bunch of different sizes. I can tweak the colors that I need. In this case, I think that we'll go for a gray to begin with, but I might have to change it when we're in. And when you're done, grab the arrow, drag it into the application. It seemed to have crashed itself. And then you're done. That's it. You've got a little SVG arrow perfectly packed inside here. And so we'll grab this icon and we'll put it to the side. Now really it should be 32 pixels from the edge. But for some reason in this advertisement they have decided not to. So we will follow their lead. These look like a little bit smaller. We'll go height of 2. If I want to space this moon perfectly between these 3 slots here, I can grab all 3 and click on vertically distribute. Now I've selected the wrong thing, so that didn't work. This, and this. There we go. Now it's asking me if I want to distribute it unevenly or place on subpixels. We don't ever want to place stuff on subpixels. We're better to distribute unevenly. And if we can't notice the visuals, then all right, that's one thing. But otherwise we can, the spacing between the three of these will be an uneven number. If I was to group these, it's 48, they're 13 and 1302, so it's put on subpixels anyway. Not good. Oh, okay, because the size of this isn't a round number. 22. And we'll lock that so that it can't, using this lock button, now it can't change. It can't change. Oh, it's done it again. We don't want it changing to a bad number. Now it's 11 and by 12. Move this one more down. Now we have 12 and we should have 12 at the bottom. Sweet. Now it's got a few little cool shapes in here. They shouldn't be too hard to replicate, so we'll quickly build them. That looks like a triangle. I'll drag this over here so you can see. Grab it's 4 points. Rotate it around, and now see how it's kind of arcing around. You can change the radius to bring it further in, and then when we double click on it, we can change the radius of these to make them a bit more rounded. And we'll make the tip of each of these stars just one. 1 pix might even be too round. Yeah, I thought so. 0.3. And that'll just, yeah, it'll just round the tip a little bit and take the border off over here. And we'll drop this pixel because I haven't seen this anywhere. Come back, my pretty little star. Once again, we'll do the same thing where we select all of this stuff here. And we'll group it. And we'll make this back. You should be in the group. Get in there. Background. And you are a mask. Let's just cut off this just because I've made it too small. It needs to be inside there. It needs to be behind those two shapes. So we have one over there. One up there. And a few dots. It's really just those little tiny small details that really make a UI. So don't be afraid to spend a bit of time on each one of these elements. Because they make the app for sure. And we have one more down the bottom, which are these icons. They look similar to this font here. So we should be able to just drag this down to the bottom with an Alt drag and have home. Now the way I like to do these is because they're 3 perfectly spaced icons. They look like they're in the middle. Is stretch it to 14 by 414 and then divide it by 3. You get 138. Great. So now we know the exact correct spacing for 3 together. And then see how they've kind of centered it, so they put more padding on each. We can just do the same. Now I'm doing this by selecting all 3 and holding down Alt while I drag. And then, why not? Why not do a 32 pix? 33, 31, 32. There you go. 32 by 32 pix. Needs to drop down a bit, and that is library. And that is Aaron, because that's my name. These icons look simple enough. We'll make a box, double click, and we'll add another point into the middle. Doesn't seem to be a middle on that, it's not good. And we'll just drag it up. Yep. So the perspective is that is off, and these need to be brought up a bit. Both need to be brought in by a pixel. Down a little bit. That's a bit better. So we will have no fill. The border will be the orange that we use, and it looks like 2 pixels. And we'll make the ends rounded, and then we'll make the joins rounded. And the radius of this might need to actually, now they would have built these a lot bigger, so they wouldn't be using 0.5 pixels and all that kind of stuff to make their radius. What they would have done is built it at a much bigger size and then just scaled it down to the size that they need. So they have a lot more control over what they're doing, and they don't have to fall prey to these tiny pixel grids like I'm making. So select that, and that's great. Then we have a little home icon. That text is selected. That'll be the same color as that. We'll make our library icon. So I'm going to, what size did we end up making this in the end? That's why. 16 by 17. Okay, so we'll go 17 wide. Now it looks like a little bit longer, so we'll go 22 wide, go 17 height to keep the consistency. Bring these wrong grid. That is 2 pixels. Now it's got it looks like a book. So what we'll do is we'll double click into it, add another thing either side, a vector point. We'll grab both of these and we'll drag it down. Pretty sure it was dragged down, wasn't it? Yeah. Great. So, and we'll make sure it's bottom aligned to this because that's the same as this. Once again, because we're building so small, it doesn't work as nice as it should. Pixel grid's gonna go nuts. So ends round, joins, or no joins there, but ends around. Make this 1.5. You want to get the angle the exact same angle as the top here to make that effect, but I won't be able to do the exact. I'm going to duplicate them, transform them, and flip vertically. And that will just make the exact same spaces on the other side. Of course, they are the wrong ones. So we'll change the border to our other color. And then our last thing is a half circle and a full circle. So, brilliant depiction of Aaron here. Exactly what I look like. They nailed it. And our half circle we'll make larger. We'll say it's like that. And what we'll do is we will grab, there's a bunch of different ways we can do this. This is the way I choose to grab this, subtract. Now it doesn't want to be exactly in the middle. So we have to live with Aaron on a slant. Fine. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So that was super interesting. That was really, really fun. What was great about that is to see how they build their patterns. I would love to see their huge pattern board, and if for some reason, if Headspace do decide to watch this, please let me know where I can find your UI so I can dig into it. And just the consistency of the color palette was incredible. If I was to delete a bunch of these, we'd be left with basically these 4 colors and a background. So they've done a really good job here. Obviously, they have a lot of very talented UI designers. And yeah, stick around for our next course. If you have a particular app that you want me to design or look through, or a harder app, I'm happy to have a look at it, and I'll make it into my next video. So thanks, guys. Best of luck. See ya.